Hi, we're here with Kawartha Bums TV in Omemee, and we just grabbed Dave Thomson while he's preparing for his show tonight. Dave is on the Long Road Home Tour, and thank you very much for taking a few minutes of your time to talk with us. How did you come up with your current album? I understand this is your second album. How did you come up with the second album?
How did I come up with the second album? Well, basically, just felt like it was time. It had been 3-4 years since I released the last album, and I hadn't done much songwriting in the meantime, but I had always had the desire to get back into it. When I moved from Ontario to Newfoundland, there was a bit of a void there musically, so it took probably that period of time to sort of get back into things, reconnect with the right people. I got in touch with a producer who lives in my town that I'm from, Lewisport in Newfoundland, and so from there we began a relationship, and it just felt like the right time. So I started writing, and it was neat because it was the first time that I had deliberately written. The last time was sort of a collection of songs that I was just sort of, you know.
And this album has a theme to it.
This album it does have a theme to it. It's the title of the album is A Long Road Home, but there's 4 tracks on the album that talk about home and different perspectives of home. So we have like A Long Road Home, which basically talks about the struggles of life and how sometimes we wake up in the morning and wonder how we got where we are, and it's about taking the steps it takes to get back where we belong. And then there's songs Going Home, which is really a celebration song from 2 perspectives. One that I'm so far away from my family, being out on the rock, and them being here, and just my longing to be with them, but also the idea of watching the culture out there and seeing how jobs are so few, so a lot of people have to go and travel and be away weeks at a time, maybe a month at a time, to provide for their families. And this idea that, you know, coming home and sometimes chasing that dollar sign isn't worth all the sacrifice that it takes. So that's in that song. Home is Where My Heart Is Found is another song on the album, which is a remake from my first album that I redid, and it talks about just family and friends and just how your heart is at home. And then finally wrapping up the album with Finally Home, which is talking about our eternal home. So I just thought that was neat. Starts the album with this theme, and it flows all throughout. So it was unintentional. The songs just kind of came together, but in the end, it was neat to see how it all just came together.
And you lived for a while in Lindsay and Peterborough.
I did, yeah. I lived in Lindsay. I finished high school in Lindsay. I was born and raised in Toronto. 17, I think, when we moved to Lindsay. Finished high school. Met my wife while living in Lindsay. We moved to Peterborough for employment. We were there probably 8 years. I have family that lives in Omemee. So yeah, the Kawarthas have been home for me. I spent all my summers growing up in Lindsay. We had a trailer, so we came up, like, we were up here all summer long. Like, so the Kawarthas is home for me, more than the city ever was. Sure.
So it really is a long road home tour.
It is, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is, and it's good to be here. And I have such great support here for my music and for what I do. And so there was no option when I released the album. It was, you know, I had to come back where all my support, you know, for sure, you know, is.
And I understand you're getting quite a bit of radio play.
I am. I'm really fortunate. I started with my first album when I went out to Newfoundland. It was well received by radio. This first track on the first album, Unconditional, was played. It's still playing, and on country radio. And I had a Christmas single that played throughout the season. And now into this new album, I've been fortunate. Big Wheel is my new single. It's getting great coverage in central Newfoundland, and hoping to move across the island as we go, and stations are being added, and it's fantastic.
I understand singing wasn't always as easy for you as it is now.
No, it was a long road to find my voice. I sang in choirs in church, and I often tell the story about how the choir director was working with me on this one part, and I just couldn't get it, and it was just like, he looked at me and said, maybe you should just move your lips. So so I've never forgotten that, and I never stopped singing, and for me, it's been the same as playing guitar and singing. It was something I loved. It wasn't something that I necessarily took lessons for, or had practice time. The guitar was always in my hand from age 13. I never put it down. I played all the time, and as bad as it was back then, and you can ask my family how bad it was, as bad as it was, and as bad as my singing was, I loved it, and it sounded good to me, so I just kept playing. And it's just been my dream since I was a kid. So now this is pretty cool to be able to do this kind of stuff and make a living at music, and it's awesome.
So perseverance pays off.
It does. Yeah.
You love something, keep doing
absolutely,
it.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, you got to have fun with it. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
Signing off for Kawartha Lakes Mums, it's Suzanne Scholler with Dave Thomson. Be sure to check out his site, davethomson.org.